G'day, hi, and welcome. Okay, 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 fine. I take one day off. One freaking day. Whole world goes freaking nuts again. You guys remember the last time? I said, guys, I'm gonna take about a week off. This is on my old channel. I was like, I'm gonna take about a week off. And the world nearly died. Like it nearly died. Like everything happened that week, and I come back and I'm just like, did, but how, for fuck's sakes. Yeah. Well, I took a day off, and guys, okay, what were all my predictions for this year? Like almost half of them. Like I'm gonna have to make more predictions because I'm running out. Wow. Oh my God! When we talk about China, well, I guess this is this week in World Crazy. Uh, Paul and I were working at the school yesterday, and the day before, I had to do a lot of pick shoveling, snow shoveling, where like like when the plow sidewalk guy goes by, he leaves like a ridge, but it just packs solid ice with that little plow, right? At the graveyard, at the church. And there was a funeral procession. It's very rare you have a funeral this time of year in these little churches, but the widow insisted on it. He'll be buried in the spring, but the thing is that I had to make sure it was clean enough so two men and or I guess six people could, or four people or whatever, pallbearers could get in there with the casket, right? So I had to widen it out quite a bit, and it was about 5.5 foot tall ice. I just chip it away. It only took me 45 minutes to clean everything up, but it was a very very. I'm even still a little bit stiff today, and then yesterday working out at school, there's a few staircases and stuff like that. And so I slept. When I got home, I was just like, Paul and I stopped had our traditional uh, Sunday poutine at the local restaurant at the La Chapelle's there, and got home, and I was just like it was these poutines are really good, like they're really good. It's like you eat them and then you get home, you're just like. Plus, it was minus 36 yesterday morning and stuff like that. So I wasn't outside for very long, but it's like you spend any time outside in that kind of weather, it's like, man, you come inside, you're just like, start snoring away. So, looks like everything's going to be fine, guys. There's nothing to worry about. Oh, wait, no, opposite. Opposite. Things are much worse than what I thought and suspected. If you have gold or silver, I was begging and pleading my buddy to hang on to his whatever little gold and silver he has. The other day, I was just like, hey, like, he was, oh yeah, it's going up. I said, yeah. He's convinced it's going to correct. I'm kind of looking at everything saying, when gold corrects, it's going to be really, really, really bad. Like, really, really bad. Trump is in a very bad position right now. Hence why he's firing out in all directions. But that said, the amount of chaos that is about to hit the world, Xi's fury and the rise of the Black Dragon is like it's on its way. It's definitely on its way. It won't be Xi, but it'll be whoever comes after Xi. So what did I tell you guys? Oh, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago about China. I told you China was going to basically devolve into civil conflict, military coups, and eventually that's what leads to the rise of the Black Dragon. And it also basically the destruction of the Chinese economy. It's going to kill billions, like 500,000,000 people easy, just from the starvation alone. But that said, this is like a 20 to 50 year rollout here that we're looking at. So in the immediate, despite as much as many Western countries want, China isn't going anywhere, right? Like China's feet is pretty well planted, right? Like the Chinese weren't stupid enough to ever believe in multiculturalism or anything like that. They're an empire. They act as an empire. And that is the way it goes. So the news is, whether it's true or not, it does seem like it's a thing because there is confirmation from China, which is really weird that they would even air any of this out, right? But there's got to be a good reason why they did, because, the Chinese, they tend to keep to themselves, right? In their personal matters. But there was guys, what did I say? Like major names of people that attempted coups, right? So, okay, Putin, we can't, there was an attempted coup on him, an assassination attempted 2025, right? Late 2025, almost enough to fit in with my timeline, but, I can't, because I made my predictions after that. But I said there would other be people. So you had J.D. Vance attacked. You had Maduro kidnapped. Like I say, and the list goes on and on and on and on, right? And Xi Jinping foiled a assassination attempt or a coup attempt, maybe one or the other, because I don't see you getting rid of Xi without killing him. You know what I mean? Like that man, again, basically he pulled a Saddam Hussein. Again, I've said this time and time. A lot of people, Donald Trump, the American president, is the most powerful man on the planet. No, it's Xi Jinping. If you really understand Xi's power, what he has control of, the man is terrifying. He's scarier than Putin. He's scarier because the thing with Xi, okay, is that because he's so quiet, like he doesn't need to speak out and stuff like that. Do you guys remember, was it last year, the year before, whatever it was, there was, if you were following it, there was, Xi was sitting beside a guy in one of the, I forget what they call the big consulate in China. It's the one with the big, hammered sickle, very communist, and all these like 89-year-old geezers sitting there for the communist regime, right? Party headquarters, and she was sitting beside a guy just looking forward, just calm. That kind of completely expressionless look he always has on his face there. And they had a vote on something. It had something to do with the Communist Party, anyway. And sure enough, every single person except for the guy he was sitting beside voted in favor of Xi. Right? So Xi didn't even look at that. Like that had to be the most awkward place to be sitting. And that, I believe, was one of the generals out of, I think, something like 10 generals and 1,000 people that just got rounded up last night or the night before from Xi's foiled coup. It has something to do, again, with, it's vague, it's something to do with the direction of the Communist Party of China, the People's Communist Party, as they call it. That the old guard, and these guys are old. Like Xi's the young man in the room, like he is. What's he, 70? You know what I mean? Like these old guard communist guys, like these are the guys that are probably pushing for, like the first strike on the United States, the first strike on, going after Taiwan. Xi, I think, is a little bit too smart for that. He, like these old guys, like they're gonna die soon anyway, right? So they want their glory moment of taking down the great Satan, right? So, going after the West. Xi's a lot more, he'll delay gratification for the empire. That's why he's so powerful. It's like, no, I'm going to do what's going to make China, control. Like by the year 2400, there's only going to be Chinese people and Jews left on the planet. You know what I mean? That's it. Because those two groups are trying to kill everybody, right? It's like, I'm sorry, but it's just the truth, The Chinese, it's just they don't care about anybody else. So, like, if they just want your resources, they don't want you; they want your resources. So that's something to keep an eye on, because now, if it comes out that, I doubt the United States was involved with this, because I think the hardliners, it's the same thing Stalin went through. Basically, if there was even an inclination of somebody disagreeing with the Stalinist policies, or that they might overthrow Stalin, he just had them ordered killed. Right? Just kind of like how the Iranians foiled another Israeli, U.S. backed color revolution. Like, yeah, it's all done with. It was mainly Israel and Mossad that were going around killing people or proxy groups or whatever for them. This is kind of, again, do we believe the Iranians? Well, I take it with a grain of salt, but in this case, it's like a 99% chance that's what it was. And considering that you had Mike Pompeo and all that, like these guys think they're going to be able to pull it off. Like they think they're going to be able to pull it off in Iran, and they're not. Like the Iranians are too smart. Like they're sure culturally, I don't agree with them. I'm not a fan of the, like I don't want to become a Muslim country, which is starting to become a problem as well. Uh, it's bad enough dealing with the Jewish subversion and stuff like that. Last thing you want is the Muslims controlling everything. Like we see what's happening in the UK, right? And again, nothing against Muslim people, but like they belong in the Middle East. They'll be happier there anyway. But I understand the Islamic religion is to take over the world, like it's conquest. It's their own religion, right? So I understand that. So it's like we'll just have to tell them no, thanks but no thanks. But the thing is that what I'm wondering is how much U.S. involvement could have been. I doubt there's any U.S. involvement, but if Trump starts throwing his mouth off, you know what Trump's like? He just takes credit for everything, right? Because if he thinks it's going to make him look powerful or whatever, Trump could say something really stupid if he hasn't already. I mean, as fast as I make the videos, he's tweeting like a teenage girl, right? So he could be out there saying, yeah, G, watch your back because, we got more guys in there or whatever, just to agitate, right? Now, mind you, the Americans would be crazy enough to try to do regime change in China. That could end the world. You know what I mean? That could end the world very quickly. Stop it. I'm not saying it was a U.S. backed regime change, but I won't be surprised if that's what comes down the line. But that said, though, I think it is just the old hardline communists that just want to fucking light off all the nukes and now's the time to strike. And Xi's like, no, it's not the time to strike because we don't need to. The United States is destroying itself. Just be patient, It's just these guys are about to die. They want to see the fireballs, right? I don't blame them. It'd be spectacular to watch. Mortifying, but spectacular. Like spectacular doesn't necessarily mean good. You know what I mean? It's just here's everybody getting vaporized by nukes. So yeah, that's like huge news. Like that, you don't get a bigger coup or assassination attempt than Xi Jinping. Like the only number two would be Donald Trump, and I'm pretty sure Donald Trump has already signed his own death warrant and doesn't realize it. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying I don't see how it doesn't happen now. I won't go on about the veteran thing. Yes, you guys know I'm hard on the law enforcement military for not stepping up and doing the right thing for people. And just following orders that are bad, such as the U.S. pirate navy going around stealing freighters. Again, that's going to have blowback. It already is. Other countries are now doing the same thing, tit for tat. Last place you want to be is like on a freaking freighter headed to the Middle East or headed to America from the Middle East, right? Or South America. Most like a lot of people don't realize how dangerous the United States is right now with Trump and his administration. You have to understand, it's mainly the administration that comes up with these fucking crazy Zionist, grandiose ideas. It's the people he's surrounded by, right? They're insane. They're completely insane. Now, the spin. So I'll leave the Chinese thing. We'll see how that unfolds. Who knows? Maybe somebody will get him. I mean, but the second they take out Xi Jinping, at some point they probably will. That counter faction probably won't be a mainstream communist hardline faction. It'll probably be something. It won't be a democracy faction. It could be a new imperial faction, which leads to the rise of the Black Dragon. And that's going to be crazy, crazy, crazy. Japan right now is in full scale, like, okay, let's gear up. We don't know what we're gearing up for, but fucking gear up. Banzai, here we go. Grab your katanas. Here we go, And yeah, but the Japanese are having like a bond meltdown right now. This is having wreaking havoc on the going to wreak havoc on the global economy. Um, but it all comes back to the states. It all comes back to the states. So the Davos thing, okay, the usual stuff is there, I'm sure, but almost everybody was focused on Carney and Trump. You know what I mean? That's the big takeaway from it. Now, of course, all the pro Carney people are like, yeah, his speech was brilliant, blah blah blah. He could do no wrong. I get that. And of course, all the pro Trump people are like, oh, look what Carney did. He just screwed himself. Oh, what And then like you see all these cheerleaders. Yeah, Trump just ended Carney. Carney just ended Trump. Like all these really sensationalist. And when you listen to these people talk, they have no nuance. They just have partisanship. Please don't listen to those people because they don't see the bigger picture at all. And I'm not saying I'm Mr. Brilliant or anything like that, but what I'm saying is, and you guys look, I didn't vote for Carney, but I could tell you where he's doing good. I could tell you where he's doing bad. Like Carney inherited an economy from Trudeau, who by every metric was the worst prime minister Canada's ever had. There's no way to, even if you love the guy, there's no way, like on paper, it just, the damage Trudeau has done a very strange thing to the right wingers in my country. The left wing, okay, we know the left wing is like a nihilist death cult. We already know that, right? Like and I will talk about the what you call it, the ICE shooting there, the new guy. The long or the short of it, or the short and long of it, is basically you're going to see more of that. You're going to see more of that. But like the thing is one girl, a black girl, she kind of hit the nail on the head pretty good. She goes, look, under Obama, 56 people died in the ICE raids, right? And in their care and stuff like that. Nothing. No protests, nothing like that. You got 2 people dead with the ICE raids now, and mainly due to because of these left-wing agitators throwing themselves and throwing their bodies on the mound of social justice, right? Yeah, of course you're going to get that if you keep attacking these ICE guys while you're armed, while you're walking around open carrying. And you know what I mean? Like practice some fucking self-preservation. Look, I'm all for this open carry thing, but it is ingrained in the American ethos, whether they're on the left or on the right, that it's my right to do this, of hyper-individualistic, whatever, and whatever, right? And the problem you get is when you do that, especially when you're up against guys that are already in a state of paranoia because they're attacked constantly by these government-funded and NGO-funded groups, Antifa groups, right? These guys are already on edge, right? So you're walking at them with a firearm, not complying, whatever. Some say, well, he had a phone in his hand. That in a melee, that could be, maybe the other guy thought it was a gun. I don't know. Doesn't matter because the outcome's going to be the same. Am I going to condemn it? Am I going to condone it? I'm like, no, I can see how this happened. You know what I mean? And it's going to happen again, because it's what they want to happen. They want these radical leftists challenging the ISIS guys daily, right? But again, where was all the radical left when Obama deported 3 million people and had 56 people killed under the ICE, under ICE? Nothing. Oh, and at that time, guess who was managing ICE at that time? Oh yeah, Tim Walz. You know what I mean? So, like, just understand, like, the world is a stage. If you believe this fucking thing from Tim Walz, like, I mean, I don't know what to tell. That guy is corrupt as fuck, right? But it's like, well, he's against Trump, so he's the good guy. Okay, Trump can be a bad guy, and Tim Walz can be a bad guy, and Obama can be a bad guy. All can be true at the same time. It's not, if this is the bad guy, that's the good guy. Get out of that fucking black and white thinking. It's going to get you killed. But anyway, that's my take on that. You're going to see more of it. They obviously want this. Now, the Trump administration obviously wants this because I think they're going to use it to bring in more, draconian powers. But don't kid yourself. The left wants it too because, they're a nihilist cult. But let's get back to what I was saying about up here in Canada. So Justin Trudeau is pissed off about 50% of our population, okay? And the other 50%, they weren't really for. Nobody was for Justin Trudeau at the end, right? I mean, yes, you get these hardcore, and it's always some like middle-aged woman that just like, oh, that's completely out of touch with what would actually happen. They're just like, oh, Trudeau, he was so great, he was the best prime minister, and you know this woman that just knows fucking like there's tumbleweeds going off in that head of hers. Just let sleeping dogs lie. These people are, they're irrelevant, right? Whatever. But no, the right wing is sort of picked up some of the nihilism of the left in Canada to the point where it's like, okay, no matter what, Carney's just as bad as Trudeau. I'm like, not even close. Not even close. The people that are more in the center right are kind of looking at, well, I agree with some of the stuff he's doing. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. But you know how it is. You're either all for or all against. You have to be completely loyalist to one side or the other. It's religion at that point. That's why I say stay away from the partisan channels. Anybody that cheerleads for their guy without critique is not worth listening to because, lies by omission are still lies. You know what I mean? When your side does wrong, you have to call it out. Simple as that. Right? And anybody that thinks Trump is on their side, no. Unless you're a Zionist banker, like you're not, unless you're an Israeli, he's really not on your side. Like that should be plain, like it's openly admitted. Like don't take at least take his fucking word for it. But like what you get with Trump is that he'll say something and then his people will say, no, but what he means is, no, say what you mean what you say. If you said that, that's what you mean. Take it at that. You know what I mean? And if they say something that should be a positive, well, go with my grandfather's words. Leave nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. And you might be close. You know what I mean? So yes, half of the right wing, especially this Alberta separation thing, which a lot of it is funded by the states, just so you know. It's still not a thing, but I mean, we know how volatile and emotional, reactive everybody is. People are reactionary, right? They're for somebody, then they're against, because they're not doing it from the nuance of understanding what's actually going on. They're doing it from the nuance of he's saying the right things right now, therefore I'm for him. Oh, he's not saying the right things now. You know what I mean? It's not what they say, it's what they do, right? So you have this Maple MAGA thing that wants to destroy Canada just as much as the left does. It's just they want to do it from a different angle. And they believe that Trump is going to come and save them. They really do. I'm like, if you're an Albertan, you think Trump is on Alberta's side. It's like, no, we're going to separate. We're going to become part of the states and everything. We're going to be singing Kumbaya. No, the second you separate to the states, you have to understand the first thing that happens is you lose all those oil jobs. That's going to the temporary foreign workers. I mean, it'd be lucky if we don't do it. That's every globalist right now, including Trump. And yes, Trump is a globalist. He's not the anti-globalist. He's just a different type of. He just wants to run it. That's all. that's the only difference. Again, mob bosses fighting. There are no good guys. It's just mob bosses fighting. So anyway, that said, when we go back to what's going on, okay, there's been a lot of rhetoric out there for sure, but let's separate the rhetoric. Now, there's a lot of people, like, I know some of you like Canadian Prepper, some of you don't. Yes, he does sensationalize a lot of stuff, but he is good at what he does. I was there in the beginning with him, listening to him, back when he used to listen to me, you know what I mean, on my old channel, right? And him and I used to converse every now and then. Again, I'd love to have a conversation with the guy, because there is a lot of things where I would challenge him on. The one of Trump, like the Greenland thing, it's just all for show and it's for something else, just getting weapons up in there. I do agree that that's part of it, but no, the outage in Greenland the other night, was that the Americans knocking out the Greenlandic power so that they could sneak troops in? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow morning, I'm sure. Stay posted. Or was it just the high winds that the Greenlandic hydro guys, said, oh no, it's just the high winds knocked out the power. It could be that simple too, I mean, you got to think about that, the winds that they got no trees there, guys. So when they get like gale forces, it's like right off the ocean. It's hitting them hard. You know what I mean? That'll knock out power for sure. Um, like most of those places, I think they usually have like gas heat and stuff like that, not electric. They might have some electric, but it's usually like I know up north it's almost all gas heat, gas and oil, stuff like that. Unless you're in Iceland, and then you get geothermal, and then it's like fuck, just crank it. You know what I mean? The basements always in Greenland and in Iceland, the basements are always warm. It's like, I got like the lava flow right through the bottom floor or whatever. But anyway, so that is what it is. But the big news is what has Trump really accomplished in his tirade at the Davos. So this is where you get people's blood boiling no matter which way you go. So, if you're going to say it, just say it, right? So was Carney right to call out Trump? And he did. And he did it as diplomatically, yeah, like if you look at all the diplomatic language that Carney used against Trump, okay, everybody knows who he was talking with. You don't even have to name names, right? So Carney is not at like Putin level of insults or whatever, or Xi level of insults, right? But he still knows how to politic. Trump doesn't know how to politic at all. He has no clue how to do it. I know a lot of people think because they see the Jerry Springer side of Trump and they think that he's winning and stuff like that. It's like no, everybody's just America first is not going to is not going to be there is no America first in any of the Trump policies. It's corporations first and stock market first and Israel first. That's what it is, and that's all I've been seeing. I've never seen. I mean, I'm still watching the farmers, the carrot farmers right now. Your carrot prices are about to go up fucking skyrocket. Watching one guy yesterday. It's like I guess this is the southern stuff. He's got $97,000 worth of carrots to pick. No, all his workers are gone. All of his workers are gone. The guy's in tears. Basically, I got to, I'm going to lose everything. You know what I mean? Another farm. So isolated anecdotal. Okay, one guy. Yeah, but that's the guy that's speaking out. What about the other like 200 that are in the same boat as him? I'm sure Bill Gates will be happy. Trump helped out Bill Gates to buy up the farmland. There's no doubt about that. And Trump is still trying to manipulate the stock market, the way he signals to the stock market and everything like that. It's very, very clear that he's doing that. But Carney has basically said, look, the middle powers have to gang up on the superpowers because these fucking superpowers are fucking sharks. You know what I mean? We're on the menu. And a lot of people around the world have heard him in particularly in the EU. Whether you like the EU, yes, I know that's globalism central. I know that. That's not the issue. The issue is what is the reaction to Trump's tirade. Trump made a lot of very direct not so much like basically he has threatened military action against Canada, right? You only exist because of us. Which again, there's a lot of Americans that believe that. There's even a lot of the Maple MAGA that are like, "Oh, everything's just fucking nigh." It's like, no, things are turning. It's a slow turn. For example, our population is down by 138,000 people. Thank God, people are the immigrants are leaving. You know what I mean? But they're leaving because of economic problems, right? Yes, the man on the street is still hurting. I get that, but we've got 12 new trade deals in the past year. Remember, the number to beat is 45. So Carney did 12 trade deals, actual trade deals, and then revised this thing with China, which is not a free trade deal. It's basically it's a spat, leveling the spat. So the EVs come in. Yes, it's a bit of a foothold for China, whatever, but it's not complete free open market for China in Canada. Carney's not that stupid. You know what I mean? He might not be the most brilliant man, but he's definitely knows he can't get away with that. The canola farmers will be back to normal. All that stuff is kind of gone back to normal. So basically, it's how you fight a proper tariff war. The only thing is like the visa free travel uh, from China to Canada. That I'm not for at all. You know how many fucking Chinese spies are going to be here now? No. Bring back the visas for you know. But that said, it is a trade deal that Trump said, "No, this is a good idea for you to make. Go ahead, make the deals." You know what I mean? And then now it's like, oh, now if you make the deal, that's it. Kuzma's off. Like again, this guy's fucking like, he's bipolar, right? And I was listening to one guy. You could tell he was like a Trump cheerleader or whatever. That Trump was 4D chessing. He gave everybody a chance at the World Economic Forum to do the right thing, but they didn't. So now it's going to be like 100% tariff, effectively ending all trade with Canada, is what he's proposing. So 100% tariffs basically will destroy our economy. Get ready. But why is he doing that? Well, because that's the first phase of the war. That's why he's going to, like I said right from the beginning, Trump wanted to do this on day one, but he found out that he couldn't, right? But even like, again, to get rid of Kuzma, like again, it's like pulling a hand grenade in the submarine. Yeah, sure, you're going to take us out, but the people are still focused on that 2% versus 75% of the, you got to work that out of what is in that 2%. That 2% controls about 20 to 40% of the U.S. economy. And you say, no, it does. Yes, it does. Hydroelectricity is, just from Ontario, 6 million households and businesses alone, just from Ontario. Now, Quebec, probably half the eastern seaboard. You're looking at probably about a third, up to a third of the United States getting its hydro from us. That's in that 2%. So suddenly that 2% affects almost your entire economy. So you can't pull the plug on Canada. It's a tumor grafted into a larger tumor. That's it. We can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. The slow turn is what Carney is doing. So Stephen Harper did 45. It took us from 5 trade deals in Canada to 45 trade deals in 10 years. Okay, Carney's already at 12, and it's not quite a year. It's a year next month or the month after, whatever. Not quite, right? So it's like that's pretty fucking impressive. Even if you are the most anti-liberal person on the planet, that is a major benefit for us, and that's diverted trade, right? Lutnick is still out there, going, and same with Trump. Like it's like, well, Canada can't do anything without us. It's impossible. They'll just, Canada can't. They only exist because of us. And I'm like, well, I remember a time, I grew up at a time when Canada was a lot more self-reliant, right? Where there was a lot more made in Canada. And that was pre 1991 with the NAFTA and stuff like that. NAFTA is what killed Canada and put us into this position. That was Brian Mulroney's fault. Now, did Brian Mulroney know it was going to turn out like this? Most globalists of that time probably didn't think it was going to be, like, again, I mean, if what they were doing was offshoring all the manufacturing and thought a service sector economy will be better because you'll have all these low-paying jobs and you just have everybody employed on that, working in retail stores. And then you can use the sweatshop manufacturing from China, right? And that was supposed to work, but it doesn't, because when you need like 15 different countries to build one item, you got to bring this here. And somehow they said that was cheaper. But at the time it might have been because freight was probably a lot cheaper, well, it wasn't probably, it was a lot cheaper. Right? It was so cheap, in fact, that you could exploit the cheap labor, the cheap freight, and you could, basically, hodgepodge build multiple factories around the world. And just most of them ended up in China. And now China not only is the largest manufacturer in the world, but they also have the largest military in the world, manpower-wise. And on most things, okay, their Navy's not quite on par with the U.S. Navy, but it's getting there. I think they're on their 4th or 6th aircraft carrier now. Uh, you know what I mean? Like it's they're building J-20 fighters like at a rate of 2 to 1, or maybe even 4 to 1 over the F-35s. You know how good are they? I don't know, but it's when you look at these J-20s, they're uh, they're basically a replacement for the MiG-31 is what the way it looks. Um, and their J-15s and their J-31s and their J-30s, they're going to be, China's on going to be on par with the United States within like a year or two. They're at parity on most stuff now. Like we're not going to outproduce the Chinese at this rate. The only way we can outproduce them is if we cut off them buying steel and stuff like that. So the thing is that when Lutnick's out there going, the Chinese are going to come in, they're just going to take over the Canadian economy, they're going to destroy you guys. If we let them, yeah. And again, I've always said this: the liberals sell us out to the Chinese, and the conservatives sell us out to the Americans. Neither of which is good for Canada because we don't want to be like. I think the world's coming to the conclusion that the superpowers are drunk with power, and whether it's Putin trying to destroy the Ukraine, again, I understand they're fighting NATO. It's like I understand like this idea that they just attacked Ukraine for no reason is that's bullshit too. You know what I mean? They clearly did it. The NATO wants to fight Ukraine to the last Ukrainian. I get that, right? And until the Ukrainians kind of figure that out, and they're never going to win. And yes, the Ukraine just took a massive defeat in one of the longest battles they've had in the conflict so far, and they just lost. They just got encircled by the Russians, and now those guys are dead now, right? And it's been basically 4 years of fighting in this one. They've lost a stronghold for the Ukraine. That said, yes, the Ukrainians are losing the war. There's no doubt about that, but it doesn't mean they're not going to pull a rabbit out of the hat, which I think they're going to. I just don't know what it's going to be, but you'll probably see it by near the end of the year. Who knows what it's going to be? But anyway, going on. So the rest of the world, pretty much every Western country is in agreement with Carney on that we have to group together as mid powers and work outside these superpowers because these superpowers are just they're going to have us for lunch. You know what I mean? They're just bullying us around and bullying us around. And Carney was not incorrect about that. I mean, it is a thing. It's the number one way Trump governs, and you know what I mean. It's same with the Chinese and whatever. Bigger states bully littler states. It's I don't think that's anything new. Big castles crush small castles. It's always been that way. And the real threat to Trump is that he heard exactly what everybody else heard, that, hey, we have a way out of this. It's not going to be easy, but all we have to do is kind of just work around the United States rather than with the United States, right? And the thing is that's what's going to happen. So year one, yeah, Canada cannot stand on its own, okay? So next month or whatever when they negotiate CUSMA, okay, that came around so fast. It just seemed like I was like, yeah, next year yeah, it is next year. Oh, fuck. So if Trump is really stupid and he pulls the pin on the hand grenade in the submarine, he can destroy the Canadian economy overnight, but not without extreme destruction of parts of the United States economy. Will the American people tolerate that in the middle of the winter? I don't know. I don't think so. Like if you think the ICE riots are bad, just wait till you see the economic riots that are coming, and they are coming. There's no stopping. You say, yeah, but Canada's on its way down too. It is and it isn't. Again, the numbers we're stabilizing. We're now the second fastest growing G7 out of the G7. That's good. That's a good thing. It's weird, but I have to tell people that's a good thing. Because they're like, no, Carney's bad. And it's like, it's not whether Carney's good or bad per se. It's like, is there a benefit to what he's doing? Is there not? Yes, I'm for. I don't want to move any closer to China. I agree with you. You're preaching to the choir. But is the trade deal is making more money better than making less money? It comes down to that. Now, the thing is that Carney has no choice but to pivot because he knows what's coming. He knew what was coming probably on day two, and he's been telling the public, look, there is no trade deal to be made with Trump. It's basically that time is over. What we got to do now is diversify our economy. He's 100%. Even Stephen Harper, the guy who hates the man, is like, yeah, he's on the right track. It's like, we don't really, he goes, I'll repeat it again. Stephen Harper saying, look, he was the most, he goes, look, I was the most pro-American prime minister that's ever been. And he's right. He's right about that. Stephen Harper sold us out to the Americans on a lot of stuff. Why? Globalism, right? Part of a lot of the trade deals. But he was also saying, if you asked me that a year ago, when Trump made his tirades, he didn't say it exactly that, but he was saying when the Americans said there was grievances, he says, I would have said, yes, we have to rectify these grievances and put our effort there to basically stabilize the trade and all that. He goes, a year later, it's like, like even Stephen Harper's smart enough to know that you can't appease Trump. The American economy is in shambles right now. And yes, I mean, the world economy is in shambles, right? But the thing is that if you're hooked on to the United States, it's going to pull you down with it, right? And almost every economy around the world knows this. So there's no easy solution here. It's okay. Yes, we have to diversify and just weather the storm. At least get to a point where okay, we don't take too bad of a hit when they go down, because they're going to take everybody with them, especially us being so grafted to the U.S. economy. So even Stephen Harper's like, okay, yeah, Carney's on the right track. He's on the right track. He won't say it as plain English as that, but that's what he would have done. Is diversify the economy. And Harper, in all fairness, was doing that. He was getting ready to diversify our economy to tap into the Chinese market a bit more too, right? Now the Chinese are not going to buy our stuff. Like Lutnick, again, his whole thing is to delegitimize Canada, right? And it's like Carney said this. Now he fucked around. Now he found out because now Trump's going to do this. But that was always the plan, was to destroy Kuzma. Trump's own words. Perhaps I'll get rid of it. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. Yeah, he's going to get rid of it. You know what I mean? And even if it's like he was just saying that in jest, because, whatever flies out of the guy's mouth, right? It's like, okay, well, you have to take this threat serious. This idea that there's still people saying, oh, no, his threats are just empty threats. It's just the way he negotiates. It's not. He's literal. Trump is insane. Trump has gone insane. He's a Zionist neocon. Zionist neocons go to war with everybody. The only thing that's happened is that instead of just attacking Middle Eastern countries and African countries, he's now turned the U.S. Globalist Zionist apparatus on the world. Like he's going to attack everybody. You can't have a military-industrial complex that only attacks one group of people. Like, no, at some point it's like, oh no, we got to. Well, it's manifest destiny. It's Trump talks as if Greenland's already theirs. He talks as if South America belongs to the United States and Canada belongs to the United States. These are independent countries. They do not fucking belong to you. But it is the way they think. You got to listen to these guys speaking. And just really listen to them. They are insane. That's what makes them so scary. So yes, the middle powers grouping together is a massive threat to the U.S. economy. Again, the numbers aren't lying. The farmers, like the food inflation, the Maduro raid, did that make the fuel cheaper? No. They probably took that oil and putting it into the strategic reserve. That's not going to be for the general public, right? Because the United States is getting ready to start a massive war, maybe even in the Middle East, maybe with China. Who knows, right? Who knows how crazy this is going to get? Think of the worst case scenario, and that's most likely what's probably going to happen. So be prepared. So the other thing is that this deal with China, okay, is upsetting the United States a lot. It really is. Trump plays it down, because it's the idea that it's the defiance that, like, again, it's when you stand up to a bully, they don't like it. And Trump does not care about Canadians. I don't care if you're a right wing Canadian, left wing Canadian. He hates us with a passion. I mean, listen to the man. He fucking hates us. Oh, I love the Canadians. Yeah. But we're going to do this to you. We're just going to destroy your economy. Yeah, that's not something friends say to each other. Oh, it's just a bargaining chip. It's just when they say, collusion. That's what collusion is. Yeah, do this or we destroy you. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I think anybody that's intellectually honest is going to, they understand Trump's the bad guy. It doesn't mean Carney's the good guy, but it's, at least Carney's not trying to kill his own as much, right? There's a lot of radical left wing stuff that's still there, like the gun grab and the mass migration stuff. Yeah, we're going to have to deal with that at some point, but Carney is still taking the gamble of trying to outrun the collapse of the United States. That's not an easy task for anybody. There's just no way you get around that without like a lot of turmoil. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is, though, is that other countries are watching us. They're like, Canada is on the right track. Maybe we need to do what they're doing. So Carney is taking the lead, whether people like it or not. He is taking the lead over the United States for these things, these mid-power things. And Carney is doing policy. The trade deals are signed. It's not just, oh, here's Twitter policy. I talked to this person and that makes a trade deal. Kind of like this NATO guy out there saying, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this great deal with the Americans, blah, 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 Greenland and stuff like that. And then you have like the prime minister or whatever. I'm not sure. They have a president and a prime minister in Greenland or whatever, Netherlands. And he's like, well, no, we've been saying all along. And again, it's like Trump getting this amazing deal in Greenland. Okay, asking for what you already have, with the Greenlanders saying, yeah, we'll come to the table, we'll talk about it. You want more mining rights? Yeah, sure, we'll be happy to do that. You want to build a golden dome? Yeah, you want to do that? Yeah, we'd be happy for you to do that. We'll just come to the table and let's make a deal. And Trump's out there, wow, you better make a deal or else we said we'd make a deal with you, but you got to come to the table. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to invade you. But we're saying you can do this. So it's like there was no deal. Like, you got all the Trump cheerleaders. Again, the second he says something, they take it as fucking gold. It's like, no, the Netherlands, Denmark is out there saying, we didn't sign anything. There's no deal. Nobody told us about this deal. Just because some NATO guys went a little off fucking script or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but it's so bizarre to watch. It's like the guy was like trying to be as diplomatic as he could, because it's like, I just don't want to fucking Trump tirade on Twitter at me. It's like, how do I say this nicely? But we're more than willing, but you got to actually come and sign shit. You know what I mean? Again, Trump does not do policy. I talked to somebody, I shook their hand, and he'll do this right in front of them. Yeah, we just made a great deal, blah, blah, blah. He did this to Starmer. And Starmer was sitting there fucking, not that I like that guy at all. That guy's a cocksucker and a half. But it's like, he's sitting there going, well, what the fuck is Trump talking? What great deal with Britain did he make? Nobody told me. He just throws it out there because what Trump's thinking is if I say this out loud in front of everybody, he'll be too embarrassed and he'll say, oh, yeah, we did this. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, there's like no deal. But he also does it because he knows, like, most of the MAGA look at it and say, oh, yeah, we got a deal. There's no deal. There's nothing. Trump has not made a fucking deal in months on anything. You know what I mean? Like, if you want somebody that's impressive right now on the world stage, I hate to say it, it's Carney. And that's not a ringing endorsement for men. That's what he's doing. And again, I wish people could just kind of put their emotions away a little bit. Yes, you want to be mad at him for the gun thing. I'm with you. Because we know that's bullshit, right? You want to be mad at him for not, chomping down on the fucking, illegal truckers and, all this mass immigration shit. Yeah. But Carney is a leftist liberal. I mean, we know that he's a centrist liberal. That's the best we could hope for right now, right? It's not perfect, but it's survivable to a good degree. The biggest thing, our biggest threat to the world right now is the United States, the instability of the United States. Because the one thing that came out of Davos, and again, if there was a place for an asteroid to have hit, it could have ended a lot of problems for people in the world if we would have just hit that fucking Davos building with all of them there. You know what I mean? Send the asteroid for, if there's an almighty God, next year at Davos, when they're all there, every one of the fucking cretins in the world, you would get the whole Epstein people, you'd get all them, you'd get every fucking globalist, you'd just get them all, But I know it would create a power vacuum, and careful what you wish for, right? No, the only way out is through. But the Davos crowd, the one big thing that they took away from it, and this is country after country after country. The problem with the Americans is they don't tend to listen to anything outside U.S. media, right? But if you listen to people around the world, including other countries, what they are saying is what Carney was getting at was that not only did we have to diversify our trade from the United States, and become, and basically defend each other from these bigger countries like China, United States, and Russia. But that the question is not, Trump himself at the moment. We know what Trump is. It's not just a matter of, okay, well, we'll just kind of put everything on hold till he's out of office. What they're looking at is that can they trust the American people to not elect a person like that again? Right? And that's the thing. You say, yeah, but Joe Biden was so bad. He was, but Joe Biden, was, again, in Trump's, in his defense, very little you can defend him about the guy, but in his defense, yes, Joe Biden left him the worst economy possible, right? But Trump made it so much worse. Any sort of little wins that Lutnick was talking about, go look deeper into it. Like, oh yeah, the vehicles, they're, the CEOs are making so much money and whatever. No, it's just the vehicles are more expensive. That's all. That's all. And they're about to get even more expensive, if not downright just completely, like everything's going to come to a grinding halt when Trump, basically destroys the USMCA. Because nobody's going to know how to do trade. Like, it's like, oh, what are the rules? You know what I mean? Like, he's going to destroy it, but he's not going to replace it with anything, right? That's the thing. Like, Trump is just, he's a danger to himself and others at this point. But it gets worse than that. So, the big issue, and again, I've been telling you this since day one, since he's made the threat. Okay, maybe the first time it was a joke. The second time was a joke. Third time, okay, I'm like thinking of like Sheldon Adelson. Hope that shit cocksucker is burning in hell. But about him and nuking Iran. The first time you hear it, you think it's a joke. The second time, yeah, we heard it before. Third time, yeah, we know we heard it before. The fourth time, it's like, I think he's serious. And then by the 25th time, it's like, yeah, this guy really wants to fucking nuke Iran, right? Well, 51st state, military force against Greenland. You can only say that so many. And again, Trump has said point blank when asked, yes, this is what I want to do. He has said yes. So dismissing it, saying, no, he's never going to do it. Blah, blah. Okay, if you look at the logistics of attacking Canada, number one, we're going to take Canada over in 3 days. It's bullshit. You say, yeah, but even the Canadian military is agreeing with that. Yeah, because you have to understand there's a little bit more nuance to what is going on there. And I'm going to get into that. And it's much more serious than you think. Yes, if you're an American, you're about to go to war with Canada, physically. You are going to lose. We're both going to lose. It's going to be about a 30-year-long war. It's going to make the Ukraine look horrible. Because Canada is going to win that war. You're going to lose about 250 million people in the United States. We're going to lose probably about 30 to 35 million people, probably give or take, up here in Canada in this process. But Canada will probably control probably about the upper third of the United States and Alaska. We're going to take all that on. Oh, you crazy? What are you smoking? Okay, hear me out now. I'm going to... Sun Tzu's Art of War is always about like no nation who has the will to fight can be defeated. This is why I'm looking at you, Ukraine. You know what I mean? If these guys, Russia can't fight the Ukraine to the last man without losing the entirety of the Russian military, right? It will take that long. Like that's why at some point Russia's probably like what the Ukraine is probably doing is doing a fighting. Like, look, I've been saying it and saying it and saying it. Ukraine can't get around the Russian cauldron. It was the same thing that happened in Syria. The Russian cauldrons destroyed all the ISIS guys, right? The cauldron is basically you would circle your enemy and then you just close in on them. You leave a little gap so that you don't have to fight them tooth and nail. If they know they're going to die anyway, they'll fight tooth and nail, right? Give them an out and they redo it again, and you don't lose as many of your own men in the process, right? And the Russians have been just doing this over and over and over again for 4 years, and the Ukrainians can't seem to. Now you'd say, yeah, because the Russians outnumber them 5-10 to 1. Yeah, there's that. But even at that, the home advantage to the Ukraine, okay, is still the home advantage. So why are they losing all the time and losing more ground and more ground? But they're losing like incremental ground. So the Russians are fighting for every inch of it, right? So is the Ukrainians are what they're doing is, okay, well, let's do a fighting retreat for 4 years, 3 or 4 years, okay? And then when we know that the Russians are spread too thin, then we scoop them, we counter. We do a real counter. And I think that's what's about to happen, and it's going to surprise the Russians. They're not going to be ready for it because what's happened is they've got this momentum. Right now, don't get me wrong. The Russians are fucking expert at combat. They're when I hear these Western guys out there saying, "Hey, Russia's a nothing burger," oh, they're a ragtag army. Oh, and it's like, no, they are fighting very fucking strategically. Like these guys, you wouldn't. Most people don't last more than a couple of days at. Some guys only last minutes on the front lines with those guys. That's how good they are. Like the Russians. The Russians will be very difficult to fight. There's no doubt about that. The Chinese we don't know because the Chinese don't really have that world experience of fighting. The Russians do, right? The Ukrainians right now are probably the best NATO soldiers in NATO because they've got the most experience. Why? Because they're adapted to like an actual modern battlefield. The rest of us are still fighting like World War II and Cold War tactics, right? The NATO tactics are not working in Ukraine. Look, the number one killer in Ukraine is artillery and drones. And then weather. Like these poor bastards out there right now, God, I don't care if they're Russian or Ukrainian. I feel bad for them to be out there in that -30 and so. How many guys died last night just freezing to death? Like it's fucking, it's mortifyingly gory. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress. So I say that to say this, okay, the difference is, unlike the Ukraine, who never thought their brothers would fucking invade them, and unlike the Ukraine, who waited like 4 days, 3 or 4 days after they had Russian columns just sitting there in fucking lines without fuel. If there was ever a time to send in the fucking frogfoots and that they had at the time, or a bunch of A-10s, that was the time. You could have wiped out like 600, 700 tanks, 1,000 tanks, maybe 3,000 tanks in one night, just sitting there waiting for fuel. That would have ended the occupation right away. But Russia did that for a reason. They did that as the bluff charge, right? Never thought it was incompetent. It was like, no, what they did was said, okay, we're going to send all these guys in, but if they get killed, that's why they sent in the newbies first. It's like, okay, just roll those guys in because they're going to get killed anyway. And what we'll do is we'll basically have them sitting there waiting for fuel as a bluff charge to get them to surrender right away. But the Ukrainians said, fuck you, make me. Right? You want it? You got to come and get it. You know what I mean? And that's the gamble, right? So the Ukrainians have clearly, you have to admire the Ukrainian people. You got old men fighting there. You got girls fighting there. Yes, I get it. The whole Western view of, oh look, they're rounding people up in cars and that's against human rights and stuff. It's a fucking war zone. You know what I mean? What do you think's going to happen here? You know what I mean? It's, you know what I mean? Like you have to understand what's going on. So I was listening to a history teacher. I guess he was a Canadian history teacher talking about Canadians in World War II. Okay. Now, my grandfather fought in the Cameron Highlanders, right? And I don't think he was a part of the Devil's Brigade, but he was a commando. He did, basically, he would sneak in behind enemy lines all the time, and maybe 2 or 3 other guys with him. They would crawl through a camp with a pistol and a knife or a dagger, go in, kill guys, steal shit, come back out. That's what my grandfather did. And then he was also a Bren gun operator. Could you imagine 100-round rotary magazine of 303 British ripping up people trying to cross a stream? Basically, my grandfather didn't talk about the war very much, but one thing, he told a few stories. The 2 that I remember was 3. He was in Artona, and basically he was sitting there eating an apple, and there was a little Italian kid. And my grandfather, after the war, hated Italians. He said why he hated the Italians so much was, he goes, the Germans, they were professional, they were there to kill you. There was no mistake. But he says the Italians, they'd be shooting at the Germans, and if the Germans were advancing, they'd turn around and shoot at you, right? Which I don't fault the Italians. I mean, these are scared people. They're caught between 2 superpowers fighting, right? And yes, Canada was a superpower at the time. We were the 4th largest military in the world at the time. But he was sitting there eating an apple, and there was a kid there just starving. He just gave him a couple apples, right? Stuff like that. He told that story, and then he said there was him and another guy. They were separated from the rest of the patrol or whatever, and they found a wine cellar, and they went down. And when they came up, there was an Italian guard there, and when he ran up, he said he got out, and the Italian slashed the throat of the other Canadian, and he talked about that. And then he talked about they'd be waiting by a stream, they'd see the Germans coming across, and you'd have a guy like this, you drop a hand, and that'd go on till everybody was just fucking blown apart by 303 British. Could you imagine the fucking brutal, like getting one shot from that, it's going to leave a hole that big on the other side, right? Imagine 12 rounds a second coming through. Yeah, like to see, for a man to see that, right? Such a young man to see that. He talked about, like stuff like that. But I was listening to this history teacher, and he said something interesting about Canadians, right? And again, there's and I talk about it. It's the main ethos difference between Canadians and Americans. And Americans do not understand Canadians at this level. We understand each other culturally. We like the same music. We eat the same food. We speak the same language. Blah blah blah, all that. And there's a lot of people, even in Canada, they're like, oh, we're different from Americans just because we got Tim Hortons and hockey. Okay, yeah, they're right on that superficial stuff. But at the ethos, Canadians, Americans, not better or worse, we're different, right? The Americans don't understand Canadians at all at that ethos level. And the ethos level that we have is our collectivism is based upon tribalism. We don't have hyper individuality here. We probably never will. It's just the mindset of a northern climate, right? You can see this all throughout Scandinavia. You'll see it in Canada. There's a similarity. I'm not saying we're more culturally alike than the Swedes than we are with the Americans. We share more commonality with the Americans for sure. Whatever. But there's one thing that is really very interesting is that where we do share commonality with like the Nordic countries like Sweden and Norway and Denmark, Greenland, is that in hard times we instantly bond together. We put our differences aside. Fuck you, making we're a team now. Because the first 500 years of our country, we're at 490 years of this country. Yes, as Canada, it's only been since 1867. But this country is really about 500 years old, right? And the first 250 of that is just complete fucking bloodshed. European Brothers War. against landing in the middle of native tribal wars, right? And then a brotherhood formed out of it. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, there's still bad blood to this day for certain things. Yes, there's agitation. We know all that. Revised history, blah blah. But at the end of the day, no, it did create an ethos of a people that would basically defend itself when threatened as a group, right? The Americans don't think in these terms. They think in rugged individualism and hyper individuality. Hence why you got guys getting shot by the ice things who think that laws don't pertain to them. You know what I mean? That's where that ethos comes from. That's where that mind, whether it's on the left or on the right. That's why you see that, right? But anyway, I digress. The thing is that the SS did studies on like different groups that fought against the Welshmite and whatever, how you say it, main German army, right? And they found